Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
It wasn't the snooze. People think it was the snooze. It was the AM/PM. Mike and Mike, back and better than ever. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Boogers in for Golick. Stugotz in a minute. The number one trending topic in the United States right now is Seinfeld taught me, which is funny. And because, I'm a Seinfeld addict. And we were just talking a minute ago about how Stanzik is going to run a marathon.
Right.
And there's a legendary – did you watch Seinfeld?
A little.
There's a legendary Seinfeld episode in which Jean-Paul is running the marathon and he's in town. And he slept through the marathon famously before, and Elaine is in charge of making sure he doesn't. And so he sits down in the coffee shop, and Jerry and everyone is trying to figure out what it was. Was it the AM, PM? Was it the snooze? All those kinds of questions, and it's very funny. And then, anyway, it's a very good episode. So Stanzik is running. So Stanzik, what means of making sure you wake up on time are you utilizing on Sunday morning? Because obviously it's just an alarm clock and a phone. Yeah, there were no iPhones at the time that episode was filmed.
Well, yeah, hopefully Stanzik can hydrate and get the right nutrition and make sure you handle your business early in the morning. That way you don't run into situations like I did this morning.
Yeah, again, Booger had some issues this morning. We're going to get into those with Stugotz. Could you run a marathon? You played football, so you've got a variety of
could
injuries.
I run a marathon? Don't you disrespect me like that. I was a world-class athlete.
You said this morning that you woke up and you were going to run 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
So, you would have to do that like 12 times to run a marathon.
Well, that's, probably a little bit more than that.
I don't know. So you tell me, much more than, what am I talking about? That would be 2.5. You'd have to, whatever. Let's not make this about me, okay?
Let's do that.
Let's go back to making this about you.
Okay.
Could you run a marathon? If I said to you, Booger, I will donate $100,000 to the charity of your choosing if you run a marathon, would you do it?
Yes, I would and could do it. Now, Stanzik said, 3:30?
He said he wants to run it in 3.5 hours.
Yeah, probably like 5 hours. I could do it, though.
I guess if you forced me to, I could. I would not want to at all. I wrote an entire book so as not to.
Yeah.
And I've told this story on the air before, but when my friend Heidi died, I really wanted to do something in her honor to raise money for cancer. And my first idea was I would run a marathon and I would solicit donations for the V Foundation. And I so didn't want to run a marathon that I wrote an entire book and have been donating all of the money from that all this time. But a book takes 2 years in my case to write, and all that kind of stuff. But I did that rather than run a marathon.
I would just load up on peanut butter. I would carb up, load up.
That'd be a delight.
Oh, it would. And I love peanut butter. And so
I know you do, but all the runners I know these days, they're loading up on the peanut butter.
Yeah, peanut butter would be great, phenomenal, smooth, not crunchy. And I think I could get through it, Green. I'd grind. See, here's the thing about me and you. Both of us are mentally tough in different ways.
Okay.
We're physically tough in different ways, but our physical level of pain is where we start to differentiate each other. I think I can stand and take pain way more than you can. I think you would start feeling pain probably around mile 4 in this marathon.
I'm still waiting for the part of this in which my physical toughness. I don't claim to be physically tough in any way.
But I think there's some level. I know you say you don't have much, but there's some level of toughness.
Okay.
Like you're tough. If you got a paper cut, you're not going to stay out of work for a week. Okay.
No, but it does bother me terribly.
Okay.
And there's that commercial they show now where the woman gets the paper cut on her tongue, licking an envelope, and I have to look away every time. It bothers me a lot.
Really?
I'm not a big fan of the paper cut. By the way, for Jean-Paul, it was separate knob. Why separate knob? Why separate knob? All right, let's bring in someone else who knows all about that and would have been watching the Jet game last night. And I'm not sure if he would have watched it with delight or dismay from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Here he is, the one and only Stugotz, with us on Mike and Mike. Good morning, Stugotz.
Good morning, Greeny. Good morning, Booger. Greeny, there's no way. Booger, you are delusional, man. There is no way. You think you can beat Lee Trevino in golf. There is no way you can run a marathon. No way, Booger.
Stu, I could run the marathon. It would just take me a lot longer than the 3:30 that I thought Stanzik was going to start the marathon, but he's actually going to finish it in 3:30.
Booger, you went for a 2-mile jog today that you really couldn't get through because you had to go back to the bathroom, and you got lost. There's no way you're running a marathon, man. Well, I want to see you do it.
It was dark also, Stu. That's the thing that you're not kind of adding into the story. It was dark.
Yeah.
I had a hoodie on, and I forgot to finish what I should have finished early that morning.
Right. That's why I have a rule. I don't stray too far away from the bathroom early in the morning. Like Booger, because things start rumbling when you start running and, you start exercising and you just got to be really close to a bathroom. That's a big mistake. Like you should have just went to the gym. I know exactly where you stayed up there in Bristol. There's a gym right near your room. You should have just went to the gym. That way you're closer to a bathroom.
I wanted fresh air. Like I really wanted to be outside. It's a balmy 60 degrees. And Stugotz, tell me what the temperature is in Miami right now.
Oh, it's like, I would say it's like 65 this morning. It's beautiful out. Like, I'm going to get a full 18 holes in right after the show today.
See, I can't fathom it. And Stugotz, you're a New York guy, so that's the thing. We opened the show, and
right.
We're going to get to the football in a second here. But we opened the show this morning talking about how those of us who are from where I'm from and Stu, where you're from, I can't fathom life like that. Like it's too delightful. Like life isn't allowed to be so good that in January and February it's 60 degrees and 70 degrees and 80 degrees. But you made the move down there, and listen, God bless you for it. You're the smart one, and I'm the dumb one because you're down there playing 18 holes of golf, and I'm freezing my tuchus off.
Yeah, I did it 20 years ago, Greeny, so I'm kind of, I'm used to it now. My blood is thinned out. I get really cold when I go up north, especially in the winter. But Greeny, you can't fathom November, December, January, February, where it's not cold, where it's not snowing. And I'm telling you, here's the best way I could describe it to you. It's heavenly to not have to go through that. Like our winter is unbelievable. It's 70 degrees, not a cloud in the sky every single day. And so if you can't fathom it, here, I'll explain it to you with one word. Heavenly. That's what it is. And, Mike, you should move down here. I'm thinking you should move down here, Mike. You love
I'm
golf
thinking
so much
the same thing. Every single year when it gets cold here, I think exactly the same thing. Anyway, let's get to business here. As you watched the Jets last night, dominate the Bills, and that's what they did. They dominated that football game behind Josh McCown and Matt Forte, who neither of whom are going to be on the team whenever it is they become whatever it is they eventually hope to be. In your mind, as a fan of the team, do you believe that winning games right now, as they are doing at a rate that is surprising to everyone, do you think in the big picture that's a good thing or a bad thing? Are you rooting for them or against them?
I'm rooting against them last night, Greedy. I was rooting against them last night. I reach a point in every season where I start rooting against my team, and last night was the point where I started rooting against the New York Jets because the only way to get better in the NFL is by being really, really bad. Now, you would think the Jets would be good by now because they've been really, really bad forever, but I was rooting for them to lose. Listen, they win games that you want them to lose. They lose games that you want them to win. And Greedy, a lot of things could have been different headed into last night. The interesting thing about this team is it feels like this team could be and probably should be 6-3 based on the last 3 or 4 weeks. They had the Dolphins up 17 on the road in the fourth quarter in that game. It's a game they probably should have won. So had they won a couple of those games, I would have been rooting for the Jets last night. But to do what they did last night, which is maybe play their best game of the season, a game they probably should lose because, again, to get better, you have to be really bad in the NFL. The Jets are going to be the worst possible thing this year, Greedy. And I'm interested to hear how you experienced last night's game. Because I always say, be 0-16 or 60-0, 1-15 or 15-1. But in the NFL, you cannot be 8-8. And when we have guys talking about maybe the best quarterback draft since the 80s, I want the Jets to lose as many games as possible. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case here, Greeny. They're going to do just enough to have like the 14th pick in the NFL draft.
That's probably true. And as a consequence of that, Field Yates brought up an interesting thought.
Yep.
He said, right now, Todd Bowles could be considered the NFL's Coach of the Year. Agree or disagree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Greeny, I remember having the conversation with you before the season where you said the Jets would be lucky to win a game or two. Yeah. And I told you the NFL was weird and sometimes strange things happen in the NFL. And here the Jets are, sitting here and, I guess you could say they're in playoff contention. But, I mean, you have to consider. I know we usually give it to a coach who's won 10 games or more. I heard Field say that, and that's accurate. But you have to consider Todd Bowles here. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. But when you consider that his quarterback is Josh McCown, his running back is Matt Forte, both guys north of 30. Yes, you have to consider Todd Bowles. And there's not a superstar in the entire team. Not one. You can't. Jamal Adams will be a superstar. He is not a superstar yet. Certainly Todd Bowles has to be in that discussion for NFL Coach of the Year.
Stugotz, I think there are some organizations in sports, namely football, that have wasted talent. You look at Minnesota when they had Adrian Peterson. To a certain extent, Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. I thought they should have won more championships by now. Looking at Indianapolis with Andrew Luck, I think they're wasting his talent by the lack of talent they've put around him, and now he's hurt by large because they don't have enough offensive line help for him. What do you make of the organization, the Indianapolis Colts, and how they put talent around Andrew Luck?
Booger, I'm completely with you. Like, they had this quarterback. They had, a guy that was being compared to John Elway when he came out of college. We all saw it, the one great year that he had. We all saw how good Andrew Luck could be. And to not surround that guy, to not protect that guy with the best possible offensive line. Forget about surrounding him with skill position talent. Protect that guy. And that's on the Colts. That's on Ryan Grigson, who was the GM there for the Colts for a while. That's totally on him, and I'm completely with you. I just can't figure out. Like, I've never heard of anything like this, Booger. Have you? Like a botched surgery, and now we're having conversations about whether or not Andrew Luck will ever play football again. And I know they're denying that, but those are the conversations that people are having. This is a strange one, Booger. I can't recall a time where I've seen a guy have a surgery. Because what do we hear after a guy has surgery? That was a successful surgery. We never hear the doctor come out and say, hey, you know what? That was an unsuccessful surgery. We have no idea if he's ever going to play again. This was successful by everyone's account. And, Booger, I've never heard of an example. I can't think of another story where a guy got surgery on his shoulder, and now maybe his career is in jeopardy, and at the very least he's going to miss the remainder of this year. But I'm with you. I put this entirely on the Colts.
How about what happened with Deshaun Watson yesterday?
Oh, Greeny, I mean, unbelievable. We said it on Monday. I'm not certain Deshaun Watson wasn't the most exciting thing to watch week in and week out in the NFL. And you don't have a lot of that right now in the NFL. The quarterback play is not great. You had Aaron Rodgers. He went down. You still have Tom Brady, of course. But Deshaun Watson, that Sunday game against the Seahawks, 4 o'clock, that might have been the most entertaining game of the NFL season. In fact, I will tell you, it was the most entertaining game of the NFL season. I just felt awful for him, felt awful for the Texans. And then, my mind, because all things for me comes back to the Patriots and Tom Brady. So here's what I was thinking when I heard that it happened. Deshaun Watson, hurt. Aaron Rodgers, hurt. Andrew Luck, hurt. All these guys, with the exception of Rodgers, who's in his 30s, these guys are in their 20s. And here's Tom Brady at 40. He's had one injury his entire career. And outside of suspensions, he's played 16 games every single season. The one quarterback standing tall, healthy, playing better than he ever has, is a 40-year-old guy up in New England. And that's what I was thinking. These young guys can't stay healthy, but there's a 40-year-old up in New England playing as well as he's ever played and never gets hurt.
Stu, you being from Miami, would definitely love to get your thoughts on Dwayne Wade, now up in Cleveland with LeBron. They're struggling, man. And Dwayne Wade basically said, yeah, it's okay. We're going through the same growing pains that we did down here in Miami. Are you buying that?
Right. No, that would suggest that Dwayne Wade and LeBron James are the same players they were down here in Miami, and they're not. They're not even close. That's like, it's ludicrous for Wade to say that. He's coming off the bench. I mean, Dwayne Wade, Booger, here's what Dwayne Wade needs to do. He needs to take his shirt off and stand in front of a mirror and look at how much weight he has gained. Because this is not the same Dwayne Wade. It is not the same LeBron James. They are not going through the same thing they went down here the first season with the Miami Heat. For the most part, with the exception of Wade, a lot of these guys have played together and have done so for the last 3 years or so with LeBron James. This is not the same thing. Wade is not the same player. LeBron, I guess you could say he probably still is the same player, maybe even better LeBron James than he was when he came down here to play that first season in Miami. But this is all about Wade. And Wade is not the same, and he's never going to be the same, and they're not going through anything in comparison to what they went through that first season with the Heat, simply because we all knew. We were confident. I don't care. Like, we were all confident. We knew Wade was in his prime, LeBron was in his prime, Bosh was in his prime, and even though they got off to that slow start, we all knew they would figure it out. But there is no one that can sit here today and say they are confident the Cavaliers are going to figure this out.
Mike and Mike Stugotz with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, and let's play our little game here we call Beef Stew. Do you have, on the subject, more beef with LeBron staying quiet on his future, or with Maverick Carter saying that he has no idea where LeBron is going to play next year?
Oh, it's Maverick Carter. Greeny, I've told you this for years. The guy, they are so calculated. Maverick and Rich Paul and LeBron James, so calculated with their business decisions, their off-the-court decisions. I am telling you right now, LeBron knew he was coming to Miami years before. And think about this. He has no idea, guys. That last game he played in Cleveland against the Celtics before he came down to Miami, and Maverick saying he has no idea right now. He took his jersey off right after that. The second the game was over, he took that Cavalier jersey off, and he knew right then and there that he was leaving Cleveland and coming down to Miami. And if you believe Stephen A. Smith, and of course I do, who wouldn't? He's as credible as they come when it comes to the NBA and his sources. LeBron was plotting his exit from Miami back to Cleveland 2 years before he left and actually did it. LeBron James knows exactly where he's playing right now. He knows exactly where next year, where he's going to live, where he's going to be playing. He knows it right now. He's probably known it for a while. And the fact that Maverick Carter came out and merely suggested that LeBron James has no idea is complete. It's asinine, to be quite honest with you, because anyone who knows LeBron James knows he knows exactly where he's going to play, and he knows exactly what city he's going to live in, and he knows it right now, and he's probably known it for the last year or so.
Is it L.A.?
I think it's L.A., personally. I do. I think it's L.A. I think he wants to be there. I wish it was the Knicks. It's not going to be there. But I think it's L.A. I think he's taking a look at Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, and if he can get, a Paul George or one of those guys to kind of come over there with him, then and Chris Paul maybe, who's on a one-year contract, then yes, I could see those guys playing for the L.A. Lakers.
All right, and now I'm looking forward to this one. Do you have more beef, Stugotz, with the Browns wanting A.J. McCarron or with them screwing up the trade?
Oh, with them wanting A.J. McCarron in the first place. I mean, this is just absolutely amazing. Like the day after, first off, the Browns are going to have the first or second pick in the NFL draft, and it's a great quarterback draft. And the San Francisco 49ers, who only gave up a second-round pick to get Jimmy Garoppolo from the Patriots, they don't need a quarterback anymore. They have their quarterback for the future. So you're going to have your pick of quarterback in next year's NFL draft. Your pick, whoever you want. You can have him. He's yours. Why would you trade a second and a third-round pick to get a guy who's had 3 or 4 starts in the NFL, and we have no earthly idea if he's going to be any good? It's amazing. The Patriots trade a second-round pick to get Jimmy Garoppolo, and then the next day, the Browns reportedly offering a second and third for A.J. McCarron, who, in my mind, is nowhere near as good as Jimmy Garoppolo. So, and why would you do it? You're going to have any quarterback you want next year in the draft because the team that might take another quarterback, the San Francisco 49ers, no longer need one. And Mike Ryan, our executive producer, who's a Browns fan, he is a lifelong Browns fan. He was actually happy. He was celebrating that the Browns screwed that thing up because he didn't want that deal. He didn't want to give up a 2 and a 3 for A.J. McCarron. So
it's an interesting
I get on the Browns for even offering that. That's absurd for A.J. McCarron.
It's easy to say, I'm not disputing you, that Garoppolo is better than A.J. McCarron. And he was drafted way ahead of A.J. McCarron. He looked very good in a very short sample size on a very good team. McCarron looked decent in a slightly larger sample size on a much less good team. Mm-hmm. Do we know for sure, Booger McFarland, that Jimmy Garoppolo is better than A.J. McCarron?
I think we know that the tutelage that he's gotten is better. Right. And I think we will feel confident saying that because of that, he has an opportunity to be better. Bill Belichick, for whatever reason, he knows him better than anybody. He loves Jimmy Garoppolo. To me, the whole A.J. McCarron thing is an indictment on all the quarterbacks that the Browns have there. I think if you're Deshaun Kaiser, if you're Kessler, if you're the guys that they have there, to me, I'd be concerned the fact that they'd be willing to give up 2 draft picks to bring in another quarterback after they took one basically the last couple of years. I'd be concerned if I was any guy on that roster right now.
All right, that's Stugotz again. You'll hear him every single day following us along with the Dan Le Batard Show and company coast to coast here on ESPN Radio. Thank you, Stugotz. Enjoy the weather.
Thanks, Stu.
All right. Thank you, guys. And Booger, remember, life lesson here. Don't stray too far away from a bathroom in the morning. You got it?
Those are words to live by. It's not just the morning. I think
you can't stay by the bathroom all day.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
You can remain as close to a bathroom as possible pretty much in every minute of your life.
That's not true, Green. If you're driving down the interstate, you're nowhere near a bathroom.
What? You are near enough. You see the signs. You pay you are ever watchful of the signage that suggests to you how close the nearest rest stop is and what your other emergency precautions are. And if you're going to be in the car for a significant, you have emergency precautions that already exist, if you know what I mean.
I don't.
You are prepared for any eventuality when you get into that car.
No.
Yeah, you need to know what I'm talking about.
Well, I don't.
Well, I will explain it to you during a break because, this is not the kind of thing that I feel like talking about at great length on the show. But the McCarron thing, I think, is fascinating because everything about that story is weird. Right. From the fact that they were going to give up more for him than the 49ers gave up for Garoppolo, to the fact that the explanation for why the trade didn't happen has taken a million different twists and turns, and none of them make sense. Each of them makes less sense than the previous one. So, I don't know what happened. I really don't. But I do know that it is just another – I didn't think that things could get worse for the Cleveland Browns. I really didn't. Mm-hmm. I really didn't think that they could look worse than they've looked. They do now. they look worse. I mean, the Browns really do look like a joke in a way that I can't think of. What's the last time an NFL team looked this much like just a total laughingstock? I don't like saying that. It makes me feel bad because there are a lot of people that I'm sure that are working very hard. But this story, on top of everything else that has happened, it really does make them just look like a laughingstock.
I know Browns fans don't want to hear this, but I think, Greeny, in order for them to get eventually where they want to go, which is to become respectable in the National Football League, they're going to have to scrap this whole sabermetrics baseball thing, Sashi Brown. Bring in a football guy. Allow a football guy to build a football team.
You're changing the regime again? How many times can you do this?
Greeny, there's never a wrong time to do the right thing, okay? So, yeah, I understand you want to continue to change it, but at some point, are you going to continue to go down the wrong path? We see what it is now. They can't even complete a trade.
Yeah.
So are we willing to say, yeah, let's just keep this for the sake of keeping consistency?
What I will say is that you have reached a really interesting point where we would describe it as a step in the right direction if they actually can execute a trade mechanically. If they can actually go through the process of executing a trade and not trading away the rights to a franchise quarterback. Those are the two things we're asking them not to do going forward. All right, Joey Galloway on his way in studio and in front of a huge college football weekend and on the heels of the first release of the college football playoff rankings.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We just got a whole lot speedier on our set as we talk football here this morning with you and much more on a Football Friday. Booger McFarland in for Golick, and Joey Galloway has joined us at our set. We got an interesting little situation working here. So, we like to learn a little bit about our friends up here on our set, get a little insight into the person behind the broadcaster. So, Joey, you and Booger and Brooksy are playing golf together today after the show, and unfortunately I can't join. We have parent-teacher conferences at my kid's school.
Yeah, love those.
So we got a little bit of a timing issue, right? So you're trying to get back in time because you have to work here tonight.
Yes.
So I brought up, well, there are showers here at ESPN, multiple showers at ESPN. Your reaction was?
Multiple.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Then I brought up Booger has a hotel room like a minute away. You could shower there. And you said?
Could be worse.
Why? What's this? What is with what's going on here?
Yeah.
I first off, I don't like germs. And so when
Greeny doesn't either.
I don't like germs.
Yeah, so
either.
when I picture
likes
public showers, I just picture because we grew up in locker rooms and we see what happens in showers.
No, I get that.
So
But where is it you're going to shower then? Are you going to do you each time you shower you find one that has never been used before?
What do you mean? I shower at my house.
No, I get that, but
in my apartment or in my hotel room,
and that's it.
Like where else would?
But in your hotel room, you do recognize
that somebody had
the previous 6 days, 6 different people showered in there.
No. I'm the first person to ever use that shower when I show up to the hotel.
Are you kidding me?
And leave it there though. Like what? Why would I investigate? Why would I not walk in and think? If I'm not first, the person came in here with Clorox and everything else to clean out this shower.
No, I'm with you.
If Joey Galloway is late for the football game tonight, we'll know that he's showering and he's stuck in traffic.
You're absolutely right.
That's exactly right. So he may be late, but he'll be clean.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike and Mike Joey is here. Let's quickly look backwards before we look ahead to some of the games on the schedule this weekend. We saw the first 4 teams in the college football playoff rankings. I'm sure some people have had a chance to hear your take on it, but many have not. Do you think, for the most part, they have it right?
I do. I was a little bit surprised at the Ohio State-Oklahoma move. I just thought that Ohio State would be ahead of Oklahoma until this weekend. And if Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State, then I thought that Oklahoma would get ahead of them anyhow. So it doesn't really matter. But other than that, no. I personally had Notre Dame at number 3 in my ranking. I had Clemson at number 4. So not surprised at all.
So the Clemson bad loss bothers you less because of the quarterback injury? That they, of all the one-loss teams, have the least impressive loss?
No, it doesn't bother me because of the loss. It is what they've done besides the loss. Mm-hmm. And so we're not talking about teams that are undefeated. If we were talking, teams that are undefeated compared to Clemson, I think we had a different conversation. But if we're talking about teams that have one loss, and so their wins are more impressive than, Oklahoma's wins. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I have no problem with them being number 4.
At some point during this process, the head-to-head is going to come up, whether that's Oklahoma and Ohio State, whether that's Notre Dame and Georgia. We know that the committee looks at head-to-head only if the two teams are viewed equally.
Yep.
How do you think the committee should look at the head-to-head matchups?
You know what? The first year I was interested because if you remember the TCU and Baylor situation, and TCU went from number 3 on the final Tuesday
6?
to number 6 on the final Sunday, and that's because they said they then applied the head-to-head. And so that's why I did not think that the head-to-head would be applied in the middle of the season in this situation with Oklahoma and Ohio State, with Notre Dame and Georgia. But they're applying it. And there's different people in the room, and so you have different opinions. But I agree with applying the head-to-head, and I don't think you have to wait. I'm glad that they applied it now because it does matter.
See, here's where I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. And you and I had this conversation on the set. Oklahoma and Ohio State played, almost 55, 60 days ago.
Yep.
And those two teams are drastically different now. Mm-hmm. And so I'm willing to say that one team has gotten better, Ohio State, and one team has gotten worse, especially on the defensive side of the football in Oklahoma. So do you not put any value that teams can get better and teams can get worse, and the head-to-head at that point, in my opinion, becomes very minimal?
I do. And if you say a team has gotten worse and lost football games, then I'm with you. But if they look worse, but they are winning games, and you know this as well as anyone, that football is about matchups.
Right.
And so the teams that Ohio State has looked great against are not in Oklahoma's class. And the team that Ohio State just beat in Penn State is a different matchup issue if that was an Oklahoma team. If that was Oklahoma and Ohio State got behind like that, played sloppy early with a different offensive mentality that Oklahoma has, I don't know that Ohio State comes back to win that game. And so because I believe that football is so much about matchups, the offense from Oklahoma looked so good against that same talented defense of Ohio State, I would not assume that Ohio State could come in and now shut them down.
Mike and Mike, Joey Galloway and Booger McFarland are here. We're talking about all the college football storylines. We will, towards the end of this hour, preview some of the big games this weekend. But I do want to get your take, Joe, as well, on because what we're seeing now in the NFL is some really bad teams separating themselves from the pack at the bottom. and what we went into it thinking was going to be the greatest quarterback draft maybe since 1983. Has any of the and for those who don't know, Joey played many years in the NFL, so you know what a pro quarterback looks like.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know what a lot of them.
Yeah. You knew what about 20 of them looked like over your decade or so in the league. But that said, so we've seen some of these guys. Give me the bloom off the rose factor on Darnold, on Rosen, on Allen. All of a sudden, people are talking about Mason Rudolph, a name that we never heard before the season started. People talking about Baker Mayfield as a potential first-round pick, which is something I absolutely did not expect to have happen. Give me just sort of your big-picture take on where the quarterbacks are in college right now.
Well, number one, I am not a believer in, when we start a season and we start to say this guy is a top 5 pick and this guy's a top 5 pick. Right. I'm not a believer. Like, I'm not one of those guys that buys in until we get to mid-season to after the season when the NFL coaches actually get a chance to take a look at these kids. Because before that, it's guys like us who are like saying this kid is very good. The things I do look at, and when I watch Darnold, and I've probably watched Darnold more than any quarterback in college football, the things that start to make me nervous, because the arm talent is there. The things that start to make me nervous is when you don't take your feet with your throw. When you start, square-footed trying to throw a seam route, which you'll see him do a lot. And so those things, because I know those things are what get you beat. Those are the things that stop you from being able to complete passes at the next level. It's not just arm talent. I played with guys that had terrific arms and guys that didn't have very good arms at all. And and the guys that could understand what their arm meant. Warren Moon, the first guy that taught me that, arm talent means that you can be deadly accurate at 40 yards. It doesn't mean that you should be throwing 70-yard bombs. And that's what a lot of arm talent guys think they can do. They think they can throw the ball 70 yards and beat a corner and a safety because their arm is just so good. And so it gets guys in trouble. And I'm watching guys like Darnold, and it's almost like the arm talent is getting him in trouble because he believes he can do things that he can't actually do. And so, and when I watch Rosen, since he's been in college, there's always been an up and down with him. There's always been he looks great, and then he doesn't look so good. And that makes me nervous because at the next level, they can make you look really bad because defenses have just gotten better.
How about Baker Mayfield?
Baker Mayfield, their offense, and you see this a lot with Big 12 quarterbacks in general, it is tough to relate the offense that they run to NFL offenses. And when I watch Baker Mayfield, and I actually enjoy watching him because I enjoy their offense. Their offense is darn good with the play-action pass stuff. He's a player. I don't see his style and his mentality when he gets into Johnny Manziel mode. He gets in that running around, carrying the ball thing. I don't see that translating to NFL football.
When you look at all of them, and then some of the quarterbacks that you didn't name, Memphis has a guy, Ferguson, that's throwing the football really well. Greeny, we didn't mention him. Mm-hmm. Who do you think is the best? I think it's Rosen. I think, the thing that worries me about Darnold is the number one thing that'll get a coach fired, decision-making. Mm-hmm. His decision-making has been terrible this year, and if you really want to nitpick, you can kind of go back to the end of last year. Even though he was playing well, he just made great touchdown passes to overshadow the interceptions. So out of all the quarterbacks, you being a receiver, who do you think is the best? Or who do you think is going to project the best?
Well, the thing about Darnold and his decision-making, one of these experts will say, I can fix that. I can fix that. I see the arm talent. Yeah. You know what I mean? We could see Gruden. Yeah. We were Gruden. You could see Gruden be like, show me his top 10 throws, and then I'll make him a quarter. You can see that. It's kind of hard to say, who would you like to play with is a tough conversation, because I like guys like Darnold that are willing to throw the ball. You know what I mean? Like when I see these scrambling quarterbacks that we see nowadays, I'm like, that's not the guy I want to play with. Right. But you're right. Darnold's decision-making is an issue. It would be tough. It would honestly be tough to pick one and say, I like to play with that guy.
Well, two of those quarterbacks are playing in what might be the biggest game of the college weekend. We'll take a short break here on Mike and Mike. We'll come back. Joey Galloway and Booger McFarland taking a look ahead at that game, Bedlam, plus many more. Also, I'm being told AJ Hinch is going to call here, so we'll try and figure out our scheduling and be back in just a moment. Very busy on a football Friday, Mike and Mike. Let's take a moment to welcome our next guest and say congratulations. The first time we talked to AJ Hinch, he was in a hotel room playing home games in Tampa, and here we are a couple of months later getting set to celebrate a World Series championship with a parade in Houston. AJ, congratulations, and thank you very much for doing this today.
No, thank you for having me. You guys are talking football. I'm kind of looking forward to a couple of Saturdays and Sundays that I get to just kick back and watch some football. But after the celebration today, winning the World Series, wow, it's going to be incredible.
Oh, who's your team?
Well, I'm a big Bronco fan, so you start throwing around ideas if somebody's the next John Elway. Now I'm going to start to sit up in my chair.
Mike and Mike, all right, so we only have a couple of minutes with you here, so let me dive into this quickly. When we first spoke, as I mentioned, your team was displaced because your city and your ballpark had been hit by a hurricane. How would you put into your words the journey that your team took from that day to where you were the other night in L.A.?
Man. It's so hard to capture it, accurately in one word or one sentence because this team went through a lot. But this city was really, the ones that rallied around us. And we were the baseball team that was sort of the extension of the city. And we go through the highs and lows of a season. It takes a long time to get to the end of the journey. But we really were resilient throughout the year. We won over 100 games during the season, which sounds like we had this Cinderella story season. But you look back and see the peaks and valleys, the hurricane being the biggest part of our season. It's incredible to be the last team standing.
AJ, can you explain just the impact that a veteran like Justin Verlander had on your ball club when he came over, just how he helped those young guys come along?
Sure. A lot of it was on the field. I mean, obviously he was incredible on the field performance-wise, but I think more than anything, he was just a sort of legitimacy that came with the playoff run that we were about to go on. And when you have his jersey hung up and his presence on our team and just the belief that he brings, that we were going to have a chance to win the World Series, it was a different attitude once we traded for him and once he arrived, and there wasn't a magic potion or there wasn't this speech or there wasn't a big word. It was just a presence, and his excellence throughout his career, I think, brings the credibility that you need to get refocused to say, hey, listen, we're going to try to go win the World Series, and we just added, a future Hall of Famer and one of the best of all time.
Mike and Mike, AJ Hinch again of the World Series champion Houston Astros. We opened our show yesterday with Eduardo Perez in our studio, and he said that he, watching the telecast, had picked up something in Yu Darvish's pitching motion very quickly. He said that he could tell that his hand moved a little bit in the glove when he was throwing the slider and didn't move in the glove when he was throwing the fastball. He picked that up on TV. Obviously, your team was all over him in the 2 innings he pitched in Game 7. Did your team pick that up too?
We are so familiar with you from his days with the Rangers, and you're trying to pick up every little cue or every chance you can to eliminate a pitch. And I think whether it's a small little cue of a guy's glove or whether it's familiarity of saying, hey, if I see spin, I'm not going to hit and try to ambush his fastball. Our game plan was second to none against him in both games that he pitched. I think most of it came out of familiarity of him being a Texas Ranger and us having 20 and 30 at bats versus necessarily any one sort of key that got us a chance to hit him around.
You guys won this year with a very young team. We saw the Cubs win last year with a young team. They struggled to get back there this year. How do you take this young team, push it forward, and continue some of the success?
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to, we're just going to have to get through this celebration first and allow everybody to get through the crazy emotions that come with winning the World Series. And then, we're going to look up when the holidays are going to be here. Most teams that are eliminated have players that are starting their off-season workout program around November 1st. We were playing Game 7 of the World Series. So it's going to be a different approach for us this winter, but we're going to allow ourselves to celebrate this. And then obviously I'll handle spring training, a little differently with the workload of some of our pitchers, but our attitude won't change. I mean, I don't know what my speech will be at the beginning of next season, but we'll bury this run that we've made and start afresh.
Mike and AJ Hinch, manager of the Astros. Did you know Carlos Correa was going to propose on the field after you won the World Series?
I did. I'm proud to be really close to our players, and he told me that right before, about an hour before the game, he's like, hey, it kind of comes around and said, hey, we really got to win, and we got to do this for Houston, and we've worked so hard. I hope you're having fun. They check on me and make sure I'm still breathing, and then he pops open this ring and says, by the way, if we win, I'm gonna give Daniela this. I said, well, if I didn't feel pressure before, I feel pressure now, Carlos. We need to win so I don't ruin some marriage proposal. So I was awesome that he confided that in me, and then I have no idea where he kept the ring, or I didn't see it happen on the field with all the craziness, but what a story.
Yeah, and I like a ring you can land a plane on, so that was a very nice all the way around.
So,
anyway,
yeah, so did she. I think she loved it too. She said yes.
AJ, you've been just great with us. I mean, I can't tell you how much we appreciate all the time that you have given us over the course of this run, and I can't tell you how happy we are for you and for your entire city. So go celebrate your day. You've certainly deserved this. Congratulations, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks.
Thanks, AJ.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's AJ Hinch, manager of the Astros and a Bronco fan, which is good. He just seems like a good guy. We've had him on a bunch of times. I'm not sure, Booger, have you been with me or Mike was here, obviously, most of the time. But I want to say that's the 4th or 5th time we've had him on in the last, call it 3 months-ish. And he just... There's something about the guy I like. He's very direct, answers his questions and all that. And I like the fact, look, you asked him the right question. But you know me, I believe that we should have a smelling the roses period. I believe there should be a period of time after a team wins a championship where they should not be required to even think about next season.
And that's why you're not a manager or a coach.
No, I understand that. But we need to change this. Again, we have to change the system. We need more time to smell roses in this world. We'd all be better for it. Back with more Joey Galloway in a second. Mike and Mike.